With the clock ticking down to the trade deadline and the Giants mired in a 6-game losing streak, tonight's 9-0 win was easily the biggest win of the year.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. And coming up on today's show, we are going to get into the Giants' biggest win of the year, a 9-0 total reversal of the previous game against the Atlanta Braves, and now a chance to win the series tomorrow. We're going to get into Rafael Devers finally making his season debut and major league debut and professional debut at first base. Willy Adames and what he's been able to do lately. Hayden Birdsong being optioned, and then, of course, the outstanding pitching performance by Landon Roupp. And that's really where we're going to get started today, because Landon Roupp, with Hayden Birdsong not being able to record a single out in his start yesterday against the Braves, Landon Roupp showing that he is, the pitcher among the Giants' young pitchers who definitely is the one dealing right now, because there was a time earlier in the year when it was maybe a bit of a surprise that Landon Roupp made the opening day rotation over Hayden Birdsong, but it looks like the Giants knew what they were doing, as Landon Roupp went 5 shutout innings today against the Braves, struck out 6, walked 1, gave up 4 hits, and lowered his season ERA, and he's pitched all year, 101 and a third innings now, a 3.11 ERA in 20 starts. So what value he's brought to this team that, you look at the standings and it's not like they're doing great. It's not like they're in a great position. And so Landon Roupp has just really been a savior to go along with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray, because besides that, the rotation, despite all the talk about the pitching being a strength, outside of Webb and Ray, it was a bunch of question marks. Ray was a question mark, but he obviously has bounced back in a huge way. But Roupp being the one, Kyle Harrison got traded and is struggling in the minor leagues with the Red Sox. And Hayden Birdsong, like I said, long-term, obviously there's a lot of talent there, but man, he's had a rough go of it lately. Could not get an out, like I said, in the loss yesterday. I'm recording this Tuesday night, by the way, with the Giants losing to the Braves 9-5. So they give up 9, and then the next day they come out and they score 9. So that's big. The last 3 games, by the way, the runs scored for the Giants, 6 in an 8-6 loss, 5 in a 9-5 loss, and then 9 tonight. So the last 3 days, the bats have come around. A lot of it has to do with Rafael Devers. I think he's swinging the bat way better. Willy Adames is definitely swinging the bat way better than he was earlier in the year. But just another kind of shout out to Landon Roupp, following up on the outing that Hayden Birdsong had. No disrespect or whatever to Birdsong, but it was just a disaster. So his ERA was infinite in this particular outing because he did not record an out. And so it raised his season ERA to 4.80. He walked 4, gave up a hit, and hit a batter in that first inning without getting an out. What a mess that was. So Landon Roupp just kind of coming out and establishing that he was in control of this game from the start was key. And the Giants, they picked up 4 runs in the second inning. It started with a Willy Adames 0-2 count to a walk. And that's the type of plate appearance Willy Adames has made a habit of having lately. Just very selective and then very dangerous in the strike zone. And so all in all, a win for the Giants, who have really fallen in the standings with the trade deadline fast approaching. And so I went into this series saying it was the biggest series of the year, and that I even called it a must-win series. And so they did not start out well. But now, with Justin Verlander on the mound tomorrow, you've got a chance. And look, Justin Verlander, it's not been pretty results-wise, but you've got a chance. And sooner or later, they have to get him a win, right? I keep saying that, by the way. 9:15 a.m. Pacific time, first pitch in that one. Very early game. We'll be recording after the game tomorrow. But they've got a shot against a kind of rundown Braves team to go out there and win this series. Now, the starting pitcher for the Braves, it's so hard to find now on MLB.com. You click on the game and it sends you to buy tickets instead of seeing who's pitching, which is so annoying. I just have to continue to say that because I think it's important. It's Spencer Strider, so that'll be interesting. Strider was looking like one of the best pitchers in baseball, and then he had Tommy John, and he's not quite been the same, but he has been much better overall this year. He's been solid, and his strikeout rate is near 30%. So a tough task for the Giants tomorrow, a little bit of a mismatch based on how Verlander has pitched and based on now when I look at it, how Spencer Strider has pitched this year, but he's not unhittable like he was when, in 2022 really was when his strikeout rate in 22 and 23 was closer to 40% than it was to 30%. Like, that's crazy for a starting pitcher. And so that's who the Giants are up against tomorrow. And Verlander on the mound, but the bats coming around, and Rafael Devers coming around offensively, but also playing first. He's not going to play first tomorrow, but he played first today. And there were smiles. I think it's very different being a DH than playing the field. And for Devers, I think this is big. And Bob Melvin even said that they view Rafael Devers as the first baseman of the future for the Giants. Like, that was the long-term first baseman. So that was interesting to hear because you do have Bryce Eldridge. So it was a little bit of a tip their hand kind of moment. And anyway, it was just great to see Devers finally out there. They made some good points on the broadcast about potentially being in the field, staying loose could be good for that back that has been ailing him. Although it is also fair to point out he hasn't played the field because of his back. And so, maybe that's not valid, but nonetheless, he was having fun. It can make you way more engaged as a hitter. Some players just have difficulty DHing, and Devers maybe did initially. He got up to a horrible start in Boston, but then he did settle in and was a monster by the time he was traded to the Giants, but now he was struggling big time with the Giants, but he's looking much more like himself lately, as are a number of guys. And so it's really the pitching lately that has been suspect. But the trade deadline coming up is just huge to get this win. So we will get into the significance of Devers playing first as it pertains to the rest of this season, just for the group that they have, but also for the upcoming trade deadline. We'll get into Adames. We'll get into Hayden Birdsong getting sent down after that disastrous outing, and much more in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are out getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, it's fast to pay out, and it makes even all these regular season games feel like absolute must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, here we go. We're going to get into what I consider the very significant day here with Rafael Devers finally playing his first game at first base with the San Francisco Giants. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every Dayers tomorrow, we will hopefully be talking about a happy flight after I don't want to call it miraculous win, but Verlander, it's just been rough for him personally this season. And get him a win, score him like 12 to 15 runs, okay? You can give up 4 or whatever, but get them that win. They'll have a big, mock cheer for themselves and have a happy flight and kind of salvage this road trip. We're going to look at the standings coming up in just a minute too, because like I said, it's very significant that they were able to win this game, and they picked up a game on the Padres, who lost tonight. And so the Giants are just 2.5 back in the wild card. They had fallen to 3.5 back. So if you lose and the Padres win and you're 4.5 back with Verlander going tomorrow, like things could have been very different tonight. And the Reds lost, so they fell. The Giants gained a game on them. So the Giants are the team that's just one away from a playoff position. And it's the Padres who are ahead of them, and the Padres have a similar run differential to the Giants now, like picking up a 9-0 win pads the run differential a little bit, which is also nice. And so anyway, getting to Devers though, it was interesting to hear Bob Melvin essentially say that Devers is they view him as their long-term first baseman, because you look at Bryce Eldridge down in AAA, and he's back, by the way, after having a hamstring injury that kept him out for like 3-ish weeks. So, it's not a bad problem to have if you have a couple guys who can potentially mash, but they're each first baseman / DHs. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But the current team, you don't really worry about it at all. I think the Giants are a better team with Devers on the field, because it frees up that DH spot, which is why the Red Sox kind of so desperately wanted Devers to move to first base, in part because they had an opening there, but also because clogging up the DH spot, like only being able to DH, is kind of like, it's not necessarily the kind of guy that you want to give $300 whatever million, although it's less. I mean, that was when the contract started. But playing first and mashing would be awesome. But we don't know how he's going to do defensively, because he's never played there in the majors. He's never played there in the minors. Devers has been in professional baseball for a long time. I think he was like 16 when he broke into professional baseball. He was signed they don't give me the details here, but he 2014 at age 17 was when he entered professional baseball. And so he's never played an inning at first base. And so it took him a while to be able to get out there. Part of it was the back and the groin stuff, but now he's out there, and he had himself a nice game today. He went 2 for 5 with a double, and he had a strikeout against a position player in the top of the ninth. So The strikeout numbers have started to come down. Just the at-bat quality is clearly better. And he's not the only one. I mean, we saw it start to happen with Willy Adames, and Adames has not slowed down. We've seen it. I feel like we're seeing it with Patrick Bailey right now as well. The swing just looks a lot more dangerous and short, and he had a couple hits tonight, at least a couple hits. All of a sudden, Willy Adames is above average offensively, which he hadn't been since he never was until now. All season, he was fighting to get that weighted runs created plus above 100, and now it is. It was 103 coming into today, and now it's 105 with another good night. 3 walks tonight for Adames and a hit, and the only time he made an out was again against a position player pitching in the top of the ninth. And so Adames's on-base percentage is now .318. His career on-base percentage is .321. It's funny how guys tend to just get to their numbers in a lot of ways. The isolated power for Adames in his career is 194, and this season it's 175, so that's not there yet. And the batting average on balls in play in his career is .305, and it's .283 this season. So in some ways, you can look at this and say there's actually room for improvement in some quote-unquote luck or quote-unquote regression areas. And he's always been a second-half guy, and he's really showing it now. I mean, it's great to see Adames out there and just looking dangerous, and he's just been solid defensively. And it was particularly great to see him and Devers having fun and smiling and laughing on the field together. That's the one thing, is Devers is kind of the face of the offense now for the Giants, making such a big splash. I know he hasn't played like a superstar at all, but it's hard to be the face of an offense when you're only shown, you only appear on the field when you're hitting. There's something to being out there on the field and being involved, and the players feel that too. And so it was just nice to see Devers involved more, from a pure entertainment value, but also from a trade deadline perspective. I have discussed how it was important for Devers to get on the field before the trade deadline and see how he responds and if he's able to do it, because if he wasn't, then it kind of presented that they would have a significant need at first base if they are indeed adding ahead of the trade deadline. And however, if Devers is able to play first and play there comfortably and consistently and solidly, then because of the nature of DH, it could be anybody. It really opens up what you can do in a trade. You could move Elliot Ramos to DH and add an outfielder in a trade. You could ideally just add whoever you think is the best bang for your buck, or just go for broke and add the best players you can possibly add. And you're able to just rotate guys through the DH spot. That's kind of the perfect scenario, and how most teams use the DH spot. Especially, that's this year, that's before the trade deadline. We can get bigger and bigger and then think there's 8 years left after this year on this contract. If Devers is just a DH, you start to cringe a little bit about that fact. But if he didn't want to stop playing third base, he had only played third and DH'd a little in his career entering this season. I think he may have played. I'm looking at the wrong guy. I'm like, what? Second base? That's Willy Adames. Played some second in his career. But anyway, Devers, he played some shortstop, believe it or not. 3 total innings at shortstop, 3 total innings at second. But other than that, 8,268 and 2/3 innings at third, where he was not good. And so it remains to be seen how he's going to be defensively at first. It is a quote-unquote easier position to play than third, but it's still major league baseball, and it's not easy. And I don't know. It just remains to be seen. And he didn't have any difficult plays tonight, but the routine throws, he got a couple, I think just two, one from Schmidt and one from Willy Adames. That's not many ground ball outs in this game, and none to him. There was a pop fly that Devers kind of wanted, but Schmidt took. It was right to Schmidt. But yeah, it was just a good vibe to see him out there, and it just helps with the construction of the roster so much, which is why the Red Sox couldn't handle it, and because he wasn't willing to do it with them. But this should put to rest like all that kind of clickbait stuff that was saying like he basically no-showed to like workouts with Will Clark. I have since kind of come to understand that was a private conversation Will Clark had with Dave Fleming's brother, who broadcasts for the Red Sox, and that Devers didn't show up because he didn't want to be in front of like the Boston media out by first base, like taking ground balls with the Giants at first base, like right immediate, like when he said he wouldn't do it with the Red Sox. So there would be so many questions that he just didn't want to deal with that. And that's totally understandable. So anyway, good vibes, a change in attitude or like vibes, I feel, with this game, and picking up the win, obviously the most important thing, and a chance to keep going tomorrow. I feel like a lot of these players, like Willy Adames has talked about heating up with the weather. I think playing in Atlanta where it's hot, like some guys, it's just easier hitting weather. And so that's possibly a problem for Verlander tomorrow, but maybe a good thing for this offense that has been scoring the last 3 games. They just haven't pitched well. And like I said, the one guy who was really the face of that yesterday was Hayden Birdsong, sent out. So the Giants suddenly have a hole in their rotation. What are they going to do? What does it mean that Birdsong was sent out? We'll get into those questions and answer them in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox with no more who's handling this. And the AI agent handles after-hours calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Giants listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the ramifications of such a poor outing by Hayden Birdsong. He was sent out, and now the Giants suddenly have an opening in their rotation, which adds a lot of intrigue as the trade deadline nears, and also they've got a pretty good young pitcher down in the minors as well. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we'll be breaking down the finale of this series. Also, coming up later this week, we've got some juicy trade rumors. We've got a draft summary by the summary of the Giants draft, which I was looking for. I had read and lost the other day, and we've got that for you. So a lot coming up later on this week as the trade deadline nears. Giants have shown interest in a player. We'll get into that coming up later this week, so stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button just to be ready to hear it when it all goes down, because I do expect the Giants to be aggressive, especially if they can continue to win. That's why each and every game feels so big to me. So Hayden Birdsong struggled so badly recently that he got sent out, and it's not a surprise. I mean, you can't keep running him out there. He literally couldn't get a out in this outing, and it's multiple games in a row where he's like completely lost command of the strike zone during the outing. He had gone 4 games in a row with at least 4 walks and never exceeding 5 innings pitched, and he had 5 walks in a start that was not too far behind those ones. And if you go back, what is it? It's 7 starts, actually starting with a start against Atlanta in San Francisco. 7 starts, ERA of 8.13 with a walk rate of, you're going to be stunned. Wait to be stunned. Walk rate, actually it's higher than, this is an interesting case. No. It is high. It's shockingly high. It's 18.2%. So walking almost 1 out of every 5 batters. The strikeout rate during that time, 20.4%. So that is no bueno. That is not good enough. Almost a walk per inning for Hayden Birdsong over that time, and almost 2 home runs per 9 innings over that span. So yeah, it's understandable. Yeah, 6 home runs given up over that span. And over the last 4 starts, it's going to look even uglier. ERA of 11.08, fielding independent, pitching of 9.48, walk rate of 25% over his last 4 starts. He walked 1 out of every 4 batters he faced. So I'm not trying to pile on to Hayden Birdsong, but and allowing almost 3 home runs per 9. It's just like, duh, they optioned him. And so do you give up on him? No. But they made the following moves. They optioned Hayden Birdsong and Tristan Beck. They just needed some arms. And they brought up Carson Seymour, who pitched 2 innings and finished out tonight's game, pitched pretty well. They called up Sean Jelly as well, who pitched well. Everybody pitched well. This was a shutout for the Giants. So the interesting ramification here, especially with Justin Verlander not pitching well. It'll be important how he pitches tomorrow, but right now they've got only 4 players in their starting rotation. And Carson Seymour just pitched 2 innings tonight. Sean Jelly pitched. Spencer Bivens recently pitched yesterday. And so who's going to be that 5th guy? That is the question. And so are the Giants going to call up Carson Whisenhunt? I think it might be worth doing, given the trade deadline. Like, maybe you have something good here on your hands, and then maybe you don't need to make as significant of a move as you might otherwise. But that's an option. His ERA in AAA looks kind of high at 4.42, but that's actually about 10% above average for that league. It's a very hitter-friendly league, a lot of high-altitude ballparks, and we've seen how Sacramento plays for the A's. It's like the most lively, or second to Coors in terms of most lively, and it's not even close to the most lively park in that league, the Pacific Coast League. And so the strikeout rate is down for Whisenhunt, but he's made 18 starts, and he's been durable, and he could be an option. He's not on the 40-man. They'd have to add him, but he most recently made a 3 2/3 inning start. I'm not sure why he was pulled so soon. Only gave up 5 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts, no homers, 1 run. So maybe they're trying to save him a little bit, but that was on July 20th for AAA. And so the other option, of course, is the possibility of a trade happening. And I think it's probably likely that the Giants add starting pitching at the trade deadline. And it's also probably likely that they add a position player or 2, whether it's in the outfield or at second base or at first base /DH. Like, there are multiple positions, especially if Devers can play first, as I said, where they could afford to make a upgrade. You could also always use some bullpen help. Just want to give a quick shout out to Joey Lucchesi, who's, you could argue like left-handed relief pitching is a need, but Lucchesi is kind of making a case that he's got that nailed down as a solid option. Today, 1 inning, 3 strikeouts, and a hit, lowered his season ERA to 2.08, throwing like 95 from the left side, just looking really nasty out there. So that's looking like a savvy pickup, and he's establishing himself here as a good option for the Giants. So that's big. Everything's big ahead of the trade deadline. And so we're going to be nonstop trade deadline talk. We'll probably get into this Giants rumor that they have shown interest in Isaiah Kiner Falefa. Oh my gosh, I know his name. I just can't say it right now. Of the Pittsburgh Pirates, a second baseman. I kind of think this is probably not going to happen, but good defender, good speed. Casey Schmidt hit a bomb tonight. And so Casey Schmidt, good defender, made a really good throw. Was it tonight or was it last night? I think it was last night. Throwing out on an errant throw to first, the ball ricocheted off the sidewall and he threw a guy out easily at second. And so I don't know that they're going to add a second baseman, although someone like this player could be a good bench piece. So a lot more to discuss as the trade deadline gets closer, a week from this Friday, so the 31st of July. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, or today, actually. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, I'm Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow after the game. Thanks again for listening today, and that'll be Wednesday after the game, I should clarify, because this is a late night episode. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.